EA Sports just released a bunch of new information about the Dynasty mode and Team Builder for College Football 26. I'm going to go over all the information right now. But before I do, if you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to be a subscriber, hit the like button, let me know in the comment section. Other than that, let's go right into the video. Now, the majority of the information that I got is from the Campus Huddle, which they put out, which just about every single piece of news that they put out. And since they just did a deep dive 4-minute video on their YouTube channel, this is all the corresponding information that goes with it. Now, they start off this article talking about, once again, the fact that they got real life coaches, over 300, including coordinators. So you have the option to choose actual coaches, authentic coaches this year. They also have their faces on the when you choose your coach at the start of the dynasty on the player card, or the coaching card, I should say. Then they talk about all the customization options you have for your coach if you like to create a coach. Last year, you really didn't have a lot of options. You only had like 2 outfits. This year, there's probably a dozen or more. I mean, I'm looking at on the screen alone, there's about 16 new options here, as they show a picture of this guy in like a cutoff looking like an absolute goon. Then they also introduced a new option for coach demeanor and stance customization. So if you want your coach to seem calm and cool, you could do that. Or he could just be a high energy, emotionally charged leader, which sounds like a much more fun animation to watch. Then they talk about how people were hitting the level cap for coaches too quickly, so they extended it from 50 to 100. But I don't know what the value is to slow down your coaching progression other than making the game seem more arduous. And they don't really go into much about that either. They're just saying that people were hitting the level cap too quick, so they extended the level cap. I don't necessarily see the value of that. There's a lot of things here where they talk about how they made it more difficult to develop your coaches, or a little bit more lengthy to develop your coaches. Like, one of the things is you don't get to just choose recruiter, motivator, tactician right out the gate. You have to actually reach a level before you can even choose that. And then they also talk about how as you progress these coaches, it's going to get more expensive to progress. Like the actual, instead of just being 5 every time, it's going to go from like 5 to 20 to 30 to upgrade, which they say is to make it more, put more emphasis on the decisions you're making when building your coach. But at the end of the day, all these things just sound like they wanted to make it longer so that it would just be a more arduous process. I guess they just want you to stick around playing the game longer is really the thing. Now, they do mention that program builder and CEO archetypes are the exception, as broader leader-focused archetypes rather than specific coaching disciplines. They're not impacted by scale and costs and remain more accessible once you meet their unlocked requirements. So that's going to be something that you're probably going to want to choose. They talk about how, people weren't getting much notification when their coaches were leaving, especially coordinators. So now you're going to get like an on-screen thing that tells you that your, offensive coordinator left, accept an offer somewhere else, which is probably, important, but also very small. I see later too, they also have something like, if a player, you typically only get these screen wipes when you have like a player that's like player of the week, but they also have something where if your player breaks like a season-long record, it's going to pop up on screen. Or if they break a game record or whatever record they break, it'll pop up on screen. So there's a little bit of a notification there. Now, when it comes to coordinators, you're going to have some things here that can obviously help to keep your coordinator or bring new coordinators in. You're going to have a forever home, which is your coordinators are less likely to leave for another job. That's probably going to be the most popular one. You got deal sweetener, which says coordinators are more likely to accept your job offer, and then cream of the crop increases the caliber of coordinators available for you to hire. And then you're also going to be able to view staff moves on a page now. It says you have a staff move screen where you can view previous school, previous role, and also their new role and destination, and the reason for the job change, whether they're promoted, fired, or simply found a better fit. You'll have more context for every coaching movement, which is pretty cool. And they talk about the trophy room. This is something that obviously has been, a lot of people are really asking for this. This is something that's not just going to be in Dynasty, though. This is going to be something that's going to be across all modes. So if you play just Road to College Football, Playoff, Road to Glory, whatever, you're going to have all this information. But basically, they also say that if you start a new dynasty, you're going to, it says each dynasty you create has its own dedicated trophy room tied to your coach. So that's going to be something. I don't know how they're necessarily going to pull that off, considering that, like I said, it's across all game modes as well. But a lot of people have multiple dynasties, so I really don't know what to make of that. But you're going to be able to see, aside from having trophies for everything from national championships to individual trophies by players to, I think they said that there's 160 rivalry games, and if you win a rivalry game, you'll collect the trophy for that. And they're also going to have a college football history tab where you can basically go back and look at all the national champions, all the Heisman winners. They're going to have their actual names, which is really cool. You can go back and see who won conferences, even if the conference changed over time. Like they use the example here of the Pac-12, which was at one point the Pac-8, the Pac-10. You're going to have all that history in here, which is something that really is just uploading stats. And I can't believe they haven't done this sooner in games like Madden, where you really can't go back and look at the history of the league. But this goes all the way back to like the 1800s, which is kind of cool. And that's something that I really like. It says that you're going all the way back to the 1869, including split national champions, conference champions dating back to 1896, including historical conferences no longer in existence. For each national and conference champion, you'll be able to see the year they won the championship, their top 25 ranking, season record, and name of the coach that won the championship. If this was a championship game, you will also be able to see the losing team and their top 25 rank, which is really cool. 21 individual player and coach award winners. For example, historical Heisman Trophy and Bear Bryant Coach of the Year winners. So that's something that, like I said, I just can't believe they haven't done that a little bit sooner. But it says, speaking of awards, it says there's 14 authentic awards, including the Maxwell Award, the Walter Camp Award. Additionally, we've also rebalanced how defensive stats, in particular tackles for loss, and sacks are evaluated in our awards logic, which is something that definitely needed to be reworked. Next up, we're going to talk about the transfer portal. They say up to 2,000 people can be consistently in the transfer portal every year. They also talk about rebalancing the importance of position and age of a player. So like a freshman at 85, who's a quarterback, obviously more important position, is going to be higher rated than an 85 overall senior guard. They also talk about an issue last year in Dynasty where basically you could have 5-star guys sitting on the bench because they're happy at the fact that you're winning national championships. Well, now playing time is going to play more heavily into that. So if a guy is really good and he's sitting on the bench, he's not just going to sit through his entire college career. And they also talk about redshirting, which a lot of people would use to try to hide guys. It says that redshirting now comes with a risk. Do you want to redshirt a player and limit his playing time at the risk of him losing the offseason due to lack of playing time? They also talked about in the trailer, if a player comes and overperforms, they may raise their expectations of what they want from your school. And if you can't keep that up, they may transfer that way as well. They use the example of saying that if their facilities aren't if they raise a requirement of like what they want from the facilities and it doesn't meet, that they could easily go in the transfer portal that way. There are some new abilities though from the program builder archetype that can help. Gifted gab, additional persuasive attempts, roster retainer, increased chance of persuading a player to stay, full refund, get an additional persuasive attempt if one of your attempts is successful. So there's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of things that were really made here. You also have some customization when it comes to the transfer portal, where obviously you have the ability to set max transfers per team, which is adjustable, transfer probability, and transfer probability for CPU team slip versus user team. So there's going to be a lot of adjustability when it comes to your online Dynasty mode, which is really cool. They talk about recruiting. Now, if you're in a tight battle with somebody, when it comes to getting a recruit, say it's down to 2 schools, it won't just be like random and like, why didn't I win or why did I win? Now it's going to be a recruiting battle, which will give you like another shortened window to try to shore up that recruit. I like the improvement they made to recruiting, where basically instead of just scheduling a visit being 40 hours regardless, if you're recruiting close to home, it can be as low as 10 recruiting hours for nearby players. And what I did last year was, I think I had Texas State and I was using like North Texas's pipeline, which is like really close. So I could probably, and it's one of the better pipelines too, so I could just recruit for 10 hours a pop at just about everybody from that area, or just probably from the state of Texas in general, which is one of the best areas to recruit from. So that's going to be a cheat code for people that pick the right area. That's something that's going to be very important. It's no longer a flat 40 hours. And then it also goes back to the CEO archetype, which I mentioned earlier. It says that they have a new ability where more the merrier. It says this ability doubles the number of players who can visit your campus in a single week, increasing the total from 4 to 8. And then they go even further to say if you have a coordinator that has strategists, that you can actually boost XP for every recruit who visits during a win. So you could stack 8 recruits, get a win, and get a bunch of bonus points, bonus XP as well. So they talk about another thing from the strategist archetype called Mind Reader. It said it used to only reveal the recruit's development trait during a campus visit, which often came too late to meaningfully influence your recruit's decisions. Now, if you possess Mind Reader for a recruit's position group, you'll be able to reveal their dev trait directly through scouting, which is something that I think is also really cool. It says you'll still be able to find players with high-level attributes like silver or gold tier abilities, but it's going to be much less likely, especially when it comes to athletes, which is going to be something that they're really trying to nerf this year, is athletes with a lot of abilities. Now, when it comes to trying to sway a player to come to your school, especially when they don't really want to come to your school, they now have a little thing here, basically give you more clarity whether you want to waste your time, what are your chances of actually succeeding, which is something cool. You see on the screen how you have this, the probability of whether or not that sway will work. And if that sway worked, it says that you'll now have visual indicators both in the left recruiting board list and next to the specific motivations the recruit now cares about, making it a little bit easier to identify what you did to successfully sway them. Now, they also made a lot of improvements when it comes to the recruiting board itself, like team needs will always be visible, which is something that in the past you'd have to go to a different screen to find. They're going to give you little arrows up and down based off of where you're moving on their board, and they're going to give you little red dots to let you know that this player is basically to the pitch stage, to let you know that you have to, that basically recruiting things have unlocked. So you're going to have a lot of visual indicators about what is going on with the people that you're recruiting. You can also favorite them by holding the Y or triangle button, which is something that I think is kind of helpful. You need more stuff to differentiate these people. A lot of people, I'll go through the full scouting. I'll know that I don't want them anymore. I'll remove them from the scouting board, and then when I go back to the prospect list, it's going to have them basically like mixed in again, and it's like I already decided I don't want them, and I don't know until I put them back in my board that I'd already scouted them and I decided I didn't want them. So something like that would be a useful improvement as well, but they don't say anything about that now. Then it also says that we've added a set of advanced filters, including maximum star rating, minimum pipe level, and recruiting stage. Now, they talked about how physical abilities used to require a single level to unlock. Now it takes two. So certain ones like Shifty, which I used as an example, is going to require for an upgrade from, to get to a platinum Shifty, you're going to now be required to have a 97 change of direction and a 96 acceleration, basically making it harder for there to be so many players with these abilities in a franchise, because I'm guessing we're in a dynasty, because I'm guessing a lot of people might have had too many, might have worked their players up too quickly. Now, if a player's dev trait gets upgraded in the offseason, you'll get a notification on the screen once again. When it comes to training results, they're showing that they're going to have a little bit more visual stuff on the screen to show you how they're progressing. They're giving you the option to manually progress this year instead of basically the player just like auto progressing, which is something that you can enable manual progression in the league settings, and then basically you can choose exactly how you want to progress your player, which I think obviously most leagues are going to want to do, or most dynasties are going to want to do, is I constantly keep mixing those up, even though it says league settings. And these are things that you can always do on your player card. It talks about position changes. If you change from one position to another, it says when a player moves to a new role, they must learn a new position and skill set, one that may not directly translate from the previous experience. While it says to better reflect this, when a player changes positions, they will only retain abilities that are shared between their previous archetype and the new one. So think running back to wide receiver, but not the same. Obviously, it's going to be a bigger drop if you're trying to move a running back to an offensive tackle. The positions are completely different, so there's not really going to be a lot of shared traits. They talk about managing wear and tear once again. It talks about how you're going to have a season and a career health. So basically, if you wear down your season health, which they showed in the trailer will have its own little meter, if you wear that down, he won't be able to recover anymore week to week. And if you wear him all the way down by the start of the next season, that he's not really going to be as ready to go at the next season. He's going to have a smaller pool at the beginning of the next season, which is something that's kind of realistic. And we see it all the time where a running back carries the ball too much and it just has this negative carryover, especially in the NFL. If you look at running backs that have had 400 carries the following season, they usually fall off a cliff. Now, there are strategies when it comes to auto subs. They added a new keep fresh, normal, grinded out, and custom criteria where you can basically choose how often you want your subs to be subbed out. You can also customize in your league how much wear and tear is going to be created by each individual, collision or sack, block, whatever. You can change all that based off of how much you want wear and tear to play a part in your league, in your dynasty, whether it's online or offline. They talk about how they made improvements to the logic when it comes to playoff seeding, as well as awards, which didn't make any sense. As you can see, I played a full season with Texas State, and my receiver led the nation and everything, and he wasn't even close to getting an award. Now it says player season and career stats. They add a bunch of different stats. I'll just have those popping up on screen. Team stats like offensive stats and defensive stats look pretty basic. Yards allowed per game, rushing yards per game, passing yards per game, yards play. How was this not in the game before? Then it talks about new positions and archetypes. It says we've made key position updates to reflect how teams align. Defensive ends are now edge rushers. We've talked about that, and they've talked about that as far as the depth chart changing. But let's talk about some of these new archetypes. You got Speedster, a pure burner who takes the top off of defense, is not a technician, but lethal in open space. That's going to be a big one. Route Artist, that's going to be important too. Obviously, just a better route runner, smoother route runner. Physical route runner, big body, technical, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea of these things. I'm gonna say it right. I had someone in my comment section say I'm saying archetype, or it's archetype. I'm going to do it just for you, bro. Hopefully you're watching. If you are, comment. Now, I had more than one person say that, but either way, archetype. I'll try to get it right for you guys. Now, you also have formation subs, where you can make substitutions based off of each individual formation, which is really cool. Hopefully you can do this for Road to College Football playoffs, but if not, like I said, I might be playing more Dynasty this year based off the improvements I'm seeing. It says custom conferences and protected opponents. Obviously didn't work last year. You can protect up to 2 opponents is what I think I read in this, but they were saying how this was just not really working before, and they tried to fix that. They also want to have the new college football playoff system, which is something that obviously recently changed, and it says that it's in the game. Talks about quality of life when it comes to some improvements that they made, where now you're going to be able to see development traits and stats of the player all on screen at pretty much all times, which is something that obviously is helpful. They got cross-play in the game, and after that, they talk about some of the little things, which is kind of cool, like the Super Sim logic, where if you run an up tempo, you'll get more. This is kind of a cheat, by the way. If you're playing in a dynasty and you want more stats, you can basically just set your team to up tempo or to turbo and just run. Basically just get more stats based on the fact that you're getting more snaps. It also says broken records feedback, which I mentioned. It says coach status. It says within the coach stat screen, you can now see offensive and defensive coordinator stats as well. Force win update. This is cool because this has been an issue in Madden for years, where you have to guess which team's the home team or the away team, and sometimes you'd mess it up. Now it'll just tell you the name of the team. If you want Kansas State to win, it'll say Kansas State, which is perfect. It says combined opponent record. When viewing a team's schedule, you can now see their combined opponent record and give you a quick snapshot of their strength of schedule, which is pretty cool. Now you can sim to any week in the season, which is really cool. It says redshirt updates. Players can now play in postseason games without them counting against their redshirt ability. Additionally, now you have when you redshirt a player, it will not reset the entire depth chart. Instead, it will only alter the positions that player was in the depth chart for. It also made the spreadsheet for recruiting larger to 600 rows instead of 300 rows. It says the prospect list and the transfer portal spreadsheet can now be 600. It says the player, season, and stat screen can now display up to 700 rows. So a lot of cool stuff there. They go over team builder. The most important thing is probably that you can transfer your 25 team to 26. And it also, you have just a lot more customization. They're talking about how, number one, I talk about how the Team Builder website's going to load 2 times faster, which was obviously an issue. It didn't work very well last year. Talks about enhanced roster editing, which is something that wasn't necessarily the case last year. It says you can have first and last name, red shirt, previous red shirt, high school star rating, deal breaker. It says skill and ratings abilities, player archetype, development trait. All this stuff is something that you can basically create on your own. You can create your own custom pipeline. You can create rivalry teams, rivalry game names. It says you could also basically the first year it was played all-time series record, who won the last matchup, the score of the last game. There's a lot of information that's really added here, as it looks like they're putting a lot of effort into Team Builder as well. I'm going to end the video there, though. If you guys want to see more videos like this, I already made a lot, so I'll have them pop on my screen. So just click links. Until next time, thanks for watching, man. My shit out. Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below.